All right, so there's your Purdue Illinois recap. Let's get to the real news of the day, which is number one team in the country goes down. Bud Walton Arena, as I said, biggest crowd in Bud Walton Arena history. Tate, it was bonkers. It was nuts. The Arkansas Razorbacks have now won 9 straight. JD Note was on another level. This was a guy that
28 points.
When we talk about we try to find these moments throughout the regular season because for most of the world, college basketball only matters in March, and you have to try to pinpoint and highlight moments through it. Like when Indiana did beat Purdue, and we made that a moment on the show and talked about it. We kind of highlighted this is why we watch all season, and this is why you don't just turn into March, because moments like this that matter to these people more than it might to other. That's what I saw in JD Note tonight. Was this was in the grand scheme of things, this was just an SEC game that I understand was the number one team in the country, but this was a man that understood the moment. He understood this was the biggest crowd ever. He not only had 28 points, he was making insane shots. He would ISO on Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler and just spray these are two great shot blockers. Kessler's the best shot blocker in the country, just rising up and hitting threes in his face.
And those guys had great games, I mean, all things considered.
This was not all games are created equal, is what I guess I'm saying. Not all situations are created equal. JD Note knew that, and tonight he was like, I'm gonna ball out. I'm gonna put on a show. He did exactly that. It was so fun to watch. I think the story, we're probably going to end up talking more about Auburn because they're the number one team in the country. They've won 1,000 games in a row. They still have not lost in regulation, for what it's worth. But I want to talk a little bit about Arkansas, because that is a team that I may or may not on this show have said I'm done with. Not in an angry way. I'm more the two teams I've sworn off, I feel like this year, were Villanova and Arkansas. And Villanova was more of an aggressive swearing off. Villanova's I don't care what my eyes tell me.
Houston fans are yelling right now. They're like, he won't even mention us as written off.
So written off.
He won't even say we're written off.
Villanova is more of a case of I don't care what I am aggressively anti this Villanova team, I think, this year. Arkansas, I was just I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I'll check back in later. Just kind of whatever. I see it now. I see it. I'm back around. If JD Note is going to have 28 points and just go fucking bonkers like he did, that's a game changer for sure.
In Arkansas, for me, I mean, we believe in the must bus. We like the must bus, but there were some of the guys on their team like Audis Tony, Chris Likes, some familiar faces on this team that I like these guys. I wanted to like this team, but the way they started, it was
Jalen Williams was tough tonight too.
Yeah,
clawed in the face and
it was just a team that they were meandering along and they felt like they were off the beaten path and they weren't going to be a part of the conversation. Go on this winning streak.
This is why I was getting so upset in the first place about Arkansas, was that we need Arkansas to play good games throughout the season. They're going to the Maui Invitational next year, by the way. So I do remember when I went on a rant earlier in the season that Arkansas fans were like, now next year we are going to Maui. So there is that. But it's just frustrating to have a team that's been right in front of our faces the whole time, but it's hard to take them seriously when you play a garbage schedule,
Yeah.
It's hard to, and even on this win streak, they won 8 straight going into tonight. You look at who they beat, and it's I mean, you're beating the bottom of the SEC. It's I don't know how excited to get about that, but at the same time, you are winning. So I don't know. So I can never make sense of it. Tonight, finally, you gave me a data point that I can say, that's good. Good job. I understand that.
And now we're in this position where Arkansas is 19-5 and just beat the number one team in the country, and their resume.
1 seed?
I mean, if Coach K was coaching, yes. I mean, I would have to say yes. So that.
Where are they on bracketology stuff? What are people saying? Let me pull up Bracket Matrix.
I would assume that they were 8-9, right?
8 seed. Bracket Matrix is 8 seed. Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, they got to bump up from there.
Bump up.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking now 5-6 range.
Yeah.
Potentially, if you put the resume all together and they can hold things up. I mean, the real story of this game though started when Auburn came out and danced on the logo.
Yeah. Muss was
because Muss is a meme. We have to remember this. As much as we love Musselman, the basketball coach, he is muscle meme.
Yeah.
And the fact that Auburn came out and I guess TikToked or danced or did whatever they did on the logo.
Jackson Mahomes.
Jackson Mahomes them. They got Mahomes. And then all hell breaks loose from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Eric Musselman obviously lost his mind, told his team what he had witnessed, and then they played out of their mind. So the fact that was the impetus to this win is both comical and also very Musselman.
Well, that brings. Let's talk about the Auburn part of this, because that brings
the dancing part of
to the big discussion that we've been having for the last couple of weeks. Is that does Auburn need to lose? We both felt like they did, and that's one of the reasons why is that I don't know if cocky is the right word, but there was definitely I mean, we talked about it on the last show we did, that there was this sense of like the divinity behind the Auburn program, that like we are the chosen team, that we are the team of destiny this year, that no matter what we do, we keep finding ways to win these games, that everybody loves us. Bruce Pearl has the entire college basketball media eating out of the palm of his hand. He could. We actively do not like Bruce Pearl on the show, and like I half expect when we do live shows like this for like Bruce Pearl to just pop up on our screen, because like our producers are like, I don't know, man, he called us, so we had to put him on. Like, that's how
he said he loves you guys.
He said he loves you guys. Like that's like we've created this situation where like Auburn is just so pervasive. Like their fans online, we talked about that before, that they go into these post game, like the replies.
They go for the ratio,
the deep fried memes, as they say.
Yeah.
And there's this whole like aura around Auburn basketball right now, which is obviously good, and it's fun and it's exciting and it's new, and it's a new program that's at the adult table of college basketball. And it's like, this is cool. But at the same time, you can sense that the rest of the SEC is like, now hang on a second, especially Kentucky.
Yeah.
Kentucky fans are like, get this out of my face. Like, what are we doing? Like Auburn wins. Auburn says that Kentucky's like not that big of a deal, and they beat Kentucky, and they're standing on the tables. And by the way, is that like an SEC thing?
It is.
Every game you win, you stand on the guys are standing on the tables.
Take your jersey off. Play flag surf.
So I think there was that, and as it pertains to Musselman was the original take his shirt off guy. I know Bruce Pearl painted his chest at Tennessee, but Musselman was the take his shirt off and start twirling it in celebration guy. He was the original meme. He was the original in our minds, in our world, like this. And now he's got Bruce Pearl coming in and infringing on his territory, and I think that's what this game was about. Was that he was like, I need to knock these people down a peg or two. We need to like reconfigure the hierarchy of SEC basketball, because Auburn coming into the season was not considered like the top. It was Kentucky was still at the top, Like I'm not talking about the teams this season. I'm talking about like Kentucky, and then there was like Musselman and Nate Oates, who are like, their names are getting thrown for every single job out there. You'd sprinkle in like Rick Barnes, and then maybe like Auburn's with Rick Barnes. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden we look up, and just a snap of a finger, Auburn's like the cream of the SEC. And I don't think that sits well with these SEC guys.
I think you're 100% right, and I think let's dissect this whole situation, because when we look at Bruce Pearl, we look at this Auburn program, and the way that Eric Musselman talked about them, they're the villain, right?
Yes.
They are the bad guys. They are the ones that everyone is like, we got to deal with them. And I think, college basketball, there was a bar that was set, probably in the 1960s, 1970s, and it was like, this is how we do things. We don't cheat. We don't, this is dirty. This is that. This is, and then the bar got lowered, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then over time, the bar has continually gotten lower and lower. And James Cameron, no matter what he can do, he cannot raise that bar. And college basketball's bar keeps going down and down and down, so much so that a man who has a show cause penalty can get hired at a program and no one even bats an eye.
A man who is on a federal wiretap that has been played on HBO in a documentary for the entire world to hear.
That's how low the bar is.
Still the coach at LSU.
That is how low the bar is. And I think in a time, Eric Musselman would have been on the lower end of the bar, right? When we talk about like coaches and maybe ethics and, some of the things that he would be in. Now he is on the other end of the spectrum, where he is like the good guy, the bastion of how to do things the right way. And you got these other actors and characters that are, the bar is all the way down here, and that's where they're playing. And it is a fascinating, like the SEC is fascinating in that sense, because Eric Musselman, who could be considered by some maybe a bad guy, is so far on the good guy side.
Are you saying bad or bag?
I'm saying bag.
Okay.
B-A-G. He has those tendencies, but like the real bad guys that are like so far that you're like, I don't even know if I can call them bad guys, because they might be bad guys. That is the Bruce Pearls in this pool, and it is just like the back and forth, the jockeying for position between these people, and then like the picking and you and I are Musselman guys.
Yes,
we're on the Must Bus.
Yes.
And that's why when this happened tonight, it did feel a little bit like a reprieve.
Like the good guys won.
Like the bar rose a little bit. Like a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But ultimately, this is good for Auburn.
Yes.
And that is kind of wise. Like that idea that Auburn, there was a sense around Auburn basketball that it's the first week of February and Auburn has already won and they've already climbed the top of the mountain. And there's nothing left to climb. And we've done it. And we're everywhere we go, we win. It's unbelievable. We're the best. And to get knocked down a peg, now you can reassess. Now you can, I mean, we talked about that too, that like you need to lose a game like this to look inward and say, where did things go wrong? And I'll tell you where things went wrong. The same place things have gone wrong.
19
Auburn
turnovers.
has said, yes, as Auburn has had close calls, 19 turnovers, Wendell Green shooting just an absurd amount of shots.
And speaking of Wendell,
what was that shot at the end of regulation? When that reminded me,
that was the Patrick Ewing. Have you ever shot that shot?
Yeah. It reminded me of, do you remember the 5 overtime game that Louisville played at Notre Dame when Russ Smith, I think the end of regulation and all 5 overtimes, I think, like Russ Smith missed a game winner.
Yeah, it just kept going on. Yeah.
And there was one I remember where he just like pulled up from like 40 feet. He's just sitting there dribbling out the clock. Like they're holding it for 1 and he's just sitting there pounding the ball and he's looking up at the clock and it gets down to 10 and he's like, okay. And then he just like steps in and just drills it off the backboard. That's what the Wendell Green shot was. The difference is Russ Smith is a first team All-American. Wendell Green, when Auburn has their full team, Wendell Green comes off the bench.
Yes.
And I think like if I'm Bruce Pearl, if I'm Auburn, I don't know how you have this conversation. I don't know the mental makeup of Wendell Green completely. But you have to have some sort of conversation with this guy because he's won you ball games. Like at Alabama was certainly a case where I got really excited about Wendell Green. We did a show like that night or
we were talking about they needed a guard.
I was like, oh my God, this guy is a star. This guy he can step up and he's not, the moment's not too big for him, all that kind of stuff. It's I don't know if it's going to his head or what, but like this dude, I have a stat for you to back this up, Tate. Here's a stat. Conference field goal attempts per game for the Auburn Tigers. SEC games only since conference play has started. Wendell Green leads the team with 13.4 shot attempts. 13 shot attempts off the bench. Second on the team is Jabari Smith with 11.2. He is averaging more than 2 fewer shots per game than a guy who, he's starting now because Jaspers out, but will traditionally come off the bench for them. The number 1 pick in the country is averaging 2 fewer shots per game than a guy who is coming off the bench. That's where Auburn has arrived. And they keep winning, and that is exactly the problem, is every time you win at Missouri and you win at Georgia, you say to yourself, we don't need to fix this. It's working. Now you need to fix it. Now let's fix it moving forward. And maybe Auburn will, they'll come back around and we'll get excited about him again.
And Wendell Green, after the game, he was asked about the loss and what it meant to this team. He said, quote, "It's great, I kind of forgot what it feels like to lose. We need this. We are going to stay together. We feel great where we are at."
So he understands. He gets it. Does he listen to the show? Wendell, do you listen?
I mean, is that not what we said
exactly what
about a week ago? Yeah. And I think this will be great for Auburn. I think this will be a lesson learned. And I hope that these guards, that's really what it comes down to when you look at this Auburn team. They have these 2 front court players who no one is going to be able to outmatch. Jabari or Walker Kessler. Walker Kessler is unbelievable. Like you said, he's the best rim protector in the country. So no one is going to be able to outmatch or outclass those 2 guys. You know that going into any game in the country. So that's a good thing to have. But these guards have to know time and score, have to know how to manage the game.
Yeah.
And I don't know who that guy is on Auburn, and I think it has to be Wendell Green. But like you said, someone has to have that conversation. And maybe it's like Jabari, you need to have the ball late game situations. But
I gotta say,
someone's got to figure that out.
I should apologize to Bruce Pearl and the Auburn people because like Jasper, their starting point guard is not playing right now, and
he's a great defender.
They're making it out. They were making it out like this was a big deal, and I was kind of rolling my eyes because I'm like, all right, this dude is he averages like 5 points a game and like 3 assists. He's not. He's
not setting the world on fire.
He's not setting the world on fire. Like this isn't that big of a difference. That's not why you almost lost to Georgia. Like calm down. Like it's not like this guy's not gonna make.
Which is what Bruce Pearl said exactly after the game.
Exactly. And now I'm watching and I'm like, man, they could really use a guy that's not a ball handler that's not looking to shoot. They could really use that.
You don't need gunners.
So now I kind of get it. Like Jasper, they could really use a guy that's like, no, I'm happy like just playing defense and bringing the ball up the floor and finding Jabari Smith. I can do that.
There are times where, like, I love when a guard puts his head down and it's like, I'm going to get to the basket. But there are times with Katie Johnson, you just want to say, keep your head up. 1 second.
Yeah.
It's like right when he catches, he's already down. It's like, no, head up for a second.
Yeah.
Hey there, thanks for watching Titus and Tate. For the full friend of the program experience, subscribe right below and come join us for all things college basketball. The action is heating up. Come join Titus and Tate.